In November 1992, Janice Randle was found dead in her bed in Pierce County, Washington. Her toddler daughter, Katie, was asleep in a crib just feet away. Police initially ruled it a possible overdose. They were wrong. According to court records and investigative reporting, it would take more than 34 years, 2 confessions to family members, and an FBI SWAT team to finally bring her husband into custody. This is the case of Janice Randle. On a fall morning in November 1992, someone discovered Janice Randle unresponsive in her bedroom in Pierce County, Washington. The exact circumstances of who found her and when have not been made public. But what investigators encountered that day would set the course for the next 3 decades. Janice was in her bed. Her body showed no immediately obvious signs of violence. Nearby, in a crib just feet from where her mother lay dead, was Katie, Janice's toddler daughter. The child was alive, unharmed, and had apparently been there through whatever had happened to her mother. First responders and investigators from the Pierce County Sheriff's Office arrived at the scene. They began documenting what they found. And in those early hours, a theory began to form. The initial investigation treated Janice Randle's death as a possible overdose. Something about the scene, the positioning of the body, perhaps the absence of obvious trauma, led investigators down that path. But the autopsy told a different story. When the medical examiner's report came back, it showed no drugs in Janice Randle's system. None. The overdose theory collapsed. What had seemed like a tragic but explainable death suddenly became something else entirely. The Pierce County Sheriff's Office shifted their investigation. This was now a homicide case. Detectives began re-examining everything. They went back through the scene, the witness statements, the timeline of Janice's final hours. Her husband became a person of interest, as spouses typically do in cases like this. But building a prosecutable case proved difficult. The evidence was thin. Years later, investigators would describe the situation as having only breadcrumbs of information that could be pieced together. Whatever physical evidence existed at the scene apparently wasn't enough to make an arrest. Whatever statements were collected apparently weren't enough to file charges. The husband provided an account of what happened, and while investigators may have had their doubts, they couldn't disprove it. The case went cold. Janice Randle's file joined the thousands of unsolved homicides that accumulate in sheriff's offices across the country. Her daughter Katie would grow up without her mother, and Janice's husband would go on to live freely for the next 34 years. He moved through life without consequence. He remarried or didn't, moved from place to place, aged from a younger man into his 60s. At some point, he relocated to a retirement facility in Everett, Washington, about 60 miles north of where his wife had died decades earlier. He had every reason to believe he had gotten away with murder, but guilt has a way of surfacing, and confessions have a way of finding their way to the people who need to hear them. At some point during those 34 years, Janice Randle's husband confessed to his brother. According to statements made by a deputy prosecutor in court, he didn't just admit to killing Janice. He explained how he staged the crime scene. He told his brother specifically what he had done to make his wife's homicide look like something else, to create the appearance of an overdose, to mislead the investigators who would arrive hours or days later. His brother kept this information for years. We don't know exactly when this confession happened or why the brother didn't immediately go to police. Family dynamics are complicated. Fear, disbelief, loyalty, the passage of time, all of these can explain why someone might hold on to a secret like this, but eventually that information would reach investigators, and the husband confessed again, this time to one of his own daughters. The details of this second confession are sparse, but the words themselves have been made public. According to court records, he told his daughter directly, "Just know it was me." 4 words. After more than 3 decades, 4 words that acknowledged what he had done to the daughter's mother. We don't know when this conversation happened, whether it was years ago or more recently, whether it was during an illness or a moment of guilt or something else entirely. But at some point, the daughter heard her father admit to killing her mother. These witnessed confessions from the brother and from the daughter eventually made their way to the Pierce County Sheriff's Office. Family members came forward with this new information, reopening a case that had gathered dust for decades. Investigators went back to work. They re-examined the original case file, the autopsy report, the crime scene documentation, the statements from 1992. And this time, armed with the knowledge of what the husband had allegedly told his family members, they saw the evidence differently. The new investigation revealed something critical. According to the Pierce County Sheriff's Office, the evidence now showed that Janice Randle died as a result of a violent struggle. This directly contradicted the original account given in 1992. Whatever the husband had told investigators more than 30 years earlier, the physical evidence, when properly understood, told a different story. The case was no longer cold, and an arrest warrant was issued. On April 4, 2026, an FBI SWAT team and Pierce County Sheriff's deputies converged on a retirement facility in Everett, Washington. Their target was a 68-year-old man who had spent more than half his life believing he had escaped justice for his wife's murder. Body camera footage captured the moment of arrest. Officers approached him, and his first words were a question. "What's this about?" After 34 years, after confessing to his brother, after telling his own daughter, "Just know it was me," he apparently expected to live out his final years without consequence. He was wrong. Investigators handcuffed him and transported him to Pierce County. He was charged with first-degree murder in the death of Janice Randle. Bail was set at $1 million. At his arraignment, he pleaded not guilty. The case now moves toward trial, where prosecutors will present the witness confessions, the re-examined physical evidence, and whatever else their investigation uncovered. The Pierce County Sheriff's Office released a statement calling this case a powerful example of how advancements in technology and investigative practices can bring justice, even decades later. While this particular case appears to have been broken by family members coming forward rather than DNA technology, the principle holds. Cold cases are never truly closed. Evidence can be re-examined, witnesses can come forward, and confessions, even ones made in confidence to family members, can eventually reach the people who need to hear them. Janice Randle was a young mother with a toddler daughter when she was killed. Katie, the little girl who was found sleeping in a crib, feet from her mother's body, is now in her 30s. She has lived her entire adult life without her mother, and according to court records, with the knowledge that her father confessed to the killing. The prosecution of this case is ongoing. The defendant has pleaded not guilty, and he is entitled to the presumption of innocence until proven otherwise in a court of law. But for the family members who carried this information for years, and for the investigators who never fully closed this file, the arrest represents something they may have stopped believing was possible. Accountability, even 34 years later. If you want to go deeper on cases that were never fully closed, subscribe. A new file opens every week.